The Department of Health yesterday reporting 1758 new cases of COVID-19. There are now 248 people in hospitals, 48 of them in intensive care units. The daily cases were down on Saturday's figure. There was 2,074 confirmed cases on Saturday. For more on this, we're joined by Damien McCallion, HSE National Lead on Vaccination Programme. Damien, just before we get to the vaccination figures, how concerned are you in the HSE about these rising numbers, and do we understand what's behind them? I mean, a lot of people are saying we're getting so many people vaccinated, why are we still getting so many high cases?
Yes, obviously we would have some concern, Shane, at the trend. At the same time, we have to remind ourselves of where we were last January in these numbers. When we were getting those high case numbers, we were seeing much larger numbers in relation to hospitalisation and those people in intensive care. I mean, the vaccines are working, we're seeing that, but at the same time, the trend is still a concern, close to 2,000 cases on a given day. And obviously, as we move into the winter, that's something that would give us some anxiety in relation to those rising numbers. But we must take some solace from the fact that the vaccines are working, and the vaccine doesn't prevent you from getting the illness, but what it does do is it limits the harm which the disease can do to you in terms of hospital, in terms of ICU, and in terms of mortality. And we've seen that in terms of particularly in the most vulnerable groups, where unfortunately, we had real issues in the early part of the response to COVID. And thankfully, the vaccine has improved the response in that sense for people and limited the amount of harm that's happening to people. So it certainly is still a worry. But as I say, we are seeing that the vaccines are helping to mitigate some of the effect of those high case numbers. OK,
now the vaccine portal opening last Thursday for children aged between 12 and 15 years old. My own daughter is 13. She's getting the vaccine today. Just bring us up to speed. How many have been vaccinated so far? How many have registered so far?
Yes, we opened up on Thursday with the registration system, and we also had access in through some GPs and pharmacies. So just shy of 90,000, 89,000 have registered. Shane, so far, and we've administered nearly 35,000 over the weekend already, and the pharmacies and GPs would have administered another 4,000, just over 4,000, over and above that, 35 and 89. So I think we're very happy with the initial response over the first couple of days. It is still very early for the age groups. What we typically find, Shane, in any age group when we opened it up, is it takes a number of weeks to go through the numbers to get a real sense of what uptake will be like across any particular age group. And as we know in Ireland, we've seen huge uptake right across the board. We're now at 81% fully vaccinated, 90% partially vaccinated, and still seeing, even prior to opening up the 12 to 15 last week, seeing on average 8 to 10,000 people a day registering on the system across a range of age groups. OK, so early days yet in relation to that cohort, but are you encouraged? I mean, is it looking like we could be on for a similar number of that cohort who get vaccinated to, say, the next group up 16 to 18, or is it inevitable it'll be a smaller number as people get younger each time that the percentage drops? Yeah, I guess what we've seen as we've gone through it is we've learned the lesson, I suppose, of trying to setting arbitrary targets really doesn't necessarily help anyone. What we focused on is trying to get information to people, and that's particularly important for parents with young children. So what we would always say, look, go to hse.ie. We set up both the risks and benefits of the vaccine there. All of that information is available to you there. If you're still concerned, talk to a healthcare professional in relation to your child, and those access points are there for people, GPs, pharmacies and so on. And we've tried to make the access as broad as possible across all of the 40-plus vaccination centres through specific GPs and through some pharmacies. So I suppose we're not setting any targets. The numbers over the weekend have been really good. The numbers registered. We're getting to people very quickly as well, because we're at a stage in the programme now, I suppose, where we have ample supply, and also, we have a lot of the other age groups done. So as people register, they are getting appointments pretty quickly. Many people will have got them in less than 24 hours, for example. So that's another advantage for people at this point in time. But we would encourage people, read the information on hse.ie, look at the benefits, look at the risks, make your decision. And if you're still concerned, talk to a healthcare professional who can advise you then perhaps, or answer some of the concerns that people may have.
And just briefly before we let you go, Damien, that cohort 12 to 15, the hope would be you will finish them by when? Are we looking at kind of end of September? You'd be confident that cohort, anyone who wants one will have got one?
Typically, Shane, what we see is from when we open it up, it's a 2 to 3 week window when the majority of the people will have registered, and hence their second dose, if you like, will be within a 3 to 4 week window from there. So yes, in terms of their second dose being administered and then the protection period, you're into that sort of end of September period, again depending on when someone is vaccinated.
Okay, we will leave it there. Damien McCallion, HSE National Lead on the vaccination programme. Thank you for talking to Newstalk Breakfast this morning.